Don't get worried, you guys. We're not going to impact your local land use. We're not going to affect that, right? Excuse me, because it says elsewhere, you will find this somewhere. Land use ordinances can be created to preserve rural character. What is that? I don't think that Rite Aid is preserving rural character. I bet a lot of what you got around town is not preserving your rural character. I bet if you own some land on 128, isn't it 128? 108. Whatever. I'm not from here. If you own land on 108 and you're thinking that maybe at some point in the future you might want to do something with it, think about that. Land use ordinances can be created to preserve rural character. Now, why would you want to do that? Because if you're creating a scenic byway, you need it to be scenic, don't you? Yeah, how scenic is that Rite Aid? I don't know. And I mean, why am I talking about Rite Aid? I don't know. Anything. You got some compost? You got that compost thing going? That's really scenic. What do you got out there? What do you got anywhere? What have you got that isn't scenic and is on 108? Think about that. You may lose the designation. If they lose the designation, the scenic designation, they lose money. They lose federal dollars. This is federal money. They want to preserve the corridor by restricting development. Did you get that? Good. Now, here's what else it says. General requirements, it has to be a written plan developed through community. Boy, what did I do? That's pretty exciting. You know, it's like, I know I got the power here. All right, it's being developed through community involvement. Right? Does that ring a bell? Sound like Delphi, doesn't it? That's what it is, Delphi. Community involvement. Come on down, give us your opinion of the scenic byway. We want to hear what Dover thinks. Yeah, okay, what are they going to do? They're going to balance. Remember balance? That's a jargon term. Balance these concerns. What concerns are they talking about? They're talking about the byway's intrinsic qualities. Intrinsic. Intrinsic means something that you sort of viscerally know. Extrinsic means something you can quantify. The intrinsic, we know, will tell you qualities. All right, they want to balance those concerns. What does that mean? Communitarian mob rule. How many people in here own land on 108? Raise your hand for me. Okay, too chicken to raise your hand, that's okay. But now, there are less of you than there are of them. Them is everybody who doesn't own land on 108. That's called communitarianism. It's for the common good. It's mob rule is another little name for communitarianism, mob rule. Now you thought we had justice? Forget about it. Okay, here's what else we're talking about here. It's community-based. There's that community again, community. Community-based. That means it was all your idea, wasn't it? Even though this thing sprang fully formed from the forehead of Zeus like Minerva into your town. And then we've got, it's a living document. Ooh, don't you just love that? Not like your dead and dusty 200 and some year old Constitution. That thing's dead. That's not changing, but this can change. It's vibrant. It's walkable. It's livable. It's bikeable. It's all about you. It's about consensus. It's about manufactured democracy. Yes, it's livable. It's a livable document, a living document that outline the goals, strategies, and responsibilities. There's that nasty word, responsibilities, huh? Wonder what those are. Did you leave your trash can out on 109, 108, 107, 106, 105? Is that your farm truck parked out there, Bill? I see you got your mailbox knocked over again. Had a little fun last night. Better fix that up. Now, guess what else? Signage. Signage. You got signs out there on 10 whatever? You got signs out there? Well, too bad, because guess what? The only thing that's not allowed is billboards. Now, we're cool. We're like, Are you kidding me? Nobody puts billboards up anymore. No, I'm not worried. I don't intend to have a billboard. Excuse me, I'm going to have some water. I don't intend to have a billboard over there, neither do you. But guess what? What billboard is to you means yard sign to them. Little for sale sign. Little, oh, you can have a for sale sign. You can have a free coffee sign. I guess they're, they get thirsty out there and it's a long ways between Starbucks, so they want to know they can stop somewhere and get some free coffee. So that's okay. You can have a sign like that, all right? But any other signage, and I am hoping that they don't mean that you can't have an on-premises sign which is to advertise your existing business on that site, but I don't know that. Something else is trucks. Now you'll see this. I did a little search on this. How does she know so much? Well, thank you for asking. It's easy. That box that we sit in front of for hours and hours every day, that glowing box that rules our lives, is still pretty good for getting research done and finding out information. And you just put in Scenic Byway and you start cruising around on the internet, and you're going to find other towns that have dealt with this very issue, like one in New York State, upstate in the Catskills, where one of their city councilors got a little bit upset. And he said, hey, I can see what this is all about. You're not pulling the wool over my eyes. This is about restricting private property ownership. And that is what it is. Now, if you're a trucker and you use 108 and it's for a non-traditional use, you can just see him pulling you over. Excuse me, but I don't think that's a traditional bluestone you got in the back here, so you're going to have to take it onto the railroad. Now think about this. Passenger trains have to yield to freight. So when you get a lot more freight going, and I'll tell you this rail thing, you're going to hear more about this from me. I hope you're enjoying hanging out, because there's a lot to talk about. You can just throw stuff at me anytime you want me to stop. But non-traditional trucking is not going to be permitted, most likely. And that means trucks that are hauling anything but, I don't know, pilgrims. So, something that they had, okay, now where did I see this? I saw this on the Delaware Valley Corridor Management Plan. Delaware Valley Corridor Management Plan. I think that's in Delaware Valley, wherever the heck that is. Now, somewhere, Delaware, I guess, or New York or something. What did I notice about that? What was the thing that really jumped out at me? It's a 501c3. It's a nonprofit. It's a government-sponsored nonprofit. Put your mind around that, okay? Your government is partnering. Your government is partnering with nonprofits, with corporations, is creating these nonprofits, these separate nonprofits that are designed. Does a nonprofit not make profit? No, that isn't what it means. It means they don't pay tax on their profit. That's what that means, okay? That's your government. We're done with that for a second. We will come back. I want you to know something, though. That when I was talking about destruction of your jurisdictional boundaries, I didn't mean that they were going to take away the edge of Dover and say it's not there anymore. What I meant is that you're going to have regional boards and commissions that are going to take the power and control what goes on locally, so that your local government is merely a rubber stamp for your regional board. And even though you have a person from your local government who is sitting on that regional board, who is sitting on that 100-person regional board, who's sitting at that huge table where you need binoculars to see who's at the other end, your local person may be a no vote there, but will be outvoted. In other words, they'll have to come back to you and say, I'm sorry, but we have to implement what that regional board wants because it is controlling the money for our area. This is an unelected shadow government, and it is sold to you as an economic driver. That's what you're told. You can't compete Little Dover, you're not going to be able to compete unless you join together in a region. It's the region. It's all about the region, right? This non-existent, unelected board and commission. These regional plans are the same all across the United States. One Bay Area, one valley, one vision. 5 states, one vision. 6 counties, one vision. 10 states, one vision. You find this all over. 3 states, one vision. 32 counties, 4 states, one vision. West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio. These are all the same plan. San Francisco, one Bay Area, we're fighting it there. $200 billion over the next 25 years in money, in transportation tax dollars, only going to those cities who agree to build smart growth and permit smart growth only for their population increases. You don't go with a plan, you're not with a plan, you don't get the money. You identify priority development areas, winners and losers. Okay, now who's got a plan like this? Hanoi, Vietnam regional plan. The 2030 Hanoi, Vietnam regional plan is the same plan as the San Francisco One Bay Area regional plan. These are all, he said that makes sense. All right, funny guy. The thing is, it doesn't matter which city it is. It's all the same plan. Now, we're paying millions and millions of dollars to consultants to come up with these plans, these regional plans that are directing and restricting what we can do with our land. They have climate action plans as part of them. Some of those climate action plans say that you can't have drive-thrus anymore. You like stopping to grab something on your way somewhere? No, no, no. That is not walkable and bikeable. I don't know, I guess you can't ride your bike through there. Okay, no more drive-thrus in my town. You want to smoke in your apartment? That's against the law. You want to, yes, woke you up there. Yeah, that's right. Okay, now we're talking about appliances, all right? You got gas appliances. Natural gas is cheap, right? You want gas appliances? Gas appliances will be phased out. Take a look at your climate action plan. It's part of your comprehensive master plan to phase out your gas appliances. Not just your gas appliances. You got a gas furnace? You want to switch over to electric? Just think about the cost on that. Now put that together with the idea of community choice power aggregation, where your own town or so-called community or region is going to be producing your own electricity. And at any cost they want. That is not going to be regulated. And you have no more gas. This is coming your way. You haven't seen it here yet? You will. Okay, this is where it goes. This is all part of sustainable development. This is, I haven't gotten off topic one time. This is sustainable development. Agenda 21, sustainable development, restricting, controlling, inventorying. This is it. Don't forget, when you go to those visioning meetings, you're visioning on somebody else's property. Okay, now sustainable development, it's called new urbanism. It's anti-rural. You're in a rural area. It gets worse. I don't want you to get depressed, We're winning. I'm here. Now, not like I'm like some great thing, but I'm just saying, I'm here. You're here. We're here. We're here. We're talking about this. Yeah. Oh, great. Why not? Yeah. Come on. Okay. All right. Enough of that. Okay. But you could have clapped louder. I mean, come on. Okay. Now, it does get worse, though. But you got to hear the whole thing. Okay. Now, you thought we had 50 states, right? How could you be so stupid? Because now, or is it 51? I don't know. It's 57. Yeah. No, that's the. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Now you thought you had 50 states, but you really have 11 megaregions. Have you heard of megaregions? America2050.org. This is a project of the Regional Plan Association of America. And what they tell you is that it's not like the United States got divided up into 11 chunks. No, it's not that. It's that 26% of the landmass of the United States is going to have almost all of the population concentrated in it, and the other 74% of the land is the wildlands. Now, you in New Hampshire are part of the Northeast megaregion. That is Northern Virginia all the way up to southern Maine. It goes west to the Appalachians, thank you very much, I'll forget that, and east to the Atlantic. Okay, so think about that. This is your megaregion, folks. You go from Northern Virginia all the way up to southern Maine, out to the Appalachians, and then out to the Atlantic Ocean. Part or all? Part. Now think about this. Remember I said it breaks jurisdictional boundaries. Breaks jurisdictional boundaries. Part or all of 11 states. Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maine, and New Hampshire. 50 million people, 142 counties, hundreds of cities. You think you have trouble getting your city councilor or your county supervisor to listen to you now? Wait till you're going to the regional board meeting, except you're not going to be going because it's in another state this month. 4 states away. Mega regions. Now, this is sold to you as an economic driver. We're like the 4th largest economy in the world. That's what you're going to hear. We can't fight each other. We have to work together. You like representative government? Now you may whine and complain that you can't get those people out of there. And that's true. But you're never going to get these people out because you didn't elect them. It's not representative government. It's made up of elected officials. Where did I hear that before? It's made up of elected officials, but you have no power over this board, these boards, okay? Cascadia is what it's called up in Oregon and Washington, the Oregon and Washington one, Oregon, Washington, and it includes part of, it's not all of Oregon, and it's not all of Washington either. It includes part of Canada. The one in Southern California, it's called SoCal. It includes part of Mexico. Most of the cities in the mega regions are ICLEI cities, most of them. Now, you're going to see high-speed rail being pushed really big. Oh, we need high-speed rail. Oh, we're so backward. Oh, our country, we should be just as good as Japan. Why can't we have high-speed rail here? Well, can't you fit Japan into Hawaii or something? I mean, think about high-speed rail in the United States. The amount of money, the enormous cost of high-speed rail, our transportation dollars go forever sinking into that hole. Now, out in California, where I'm from, they're pushing it. Yeah, they got our tax money and they're going for it, right? High-speed rail. Oh, it's the way to go. It's so cool. In fact, we're getting hip to it. The people of California said, you know what, if we had a chance to vote on that now, we would vote it down. Because we know that you said you were going to do it by 2025. Now you're out to 2033. Oh, no, it's out to 2050. So they decided maybe they'll build a little high-speed rail line for us from Fresno to Bakersfield. Now you're not laughing, that's because you're out here in New Hampshire, so you don't know that that's from nowhere to nowhere. But it's flat, so they can do it. Except they still haven't done it, and they probably won't do it. They're using our money. They're taking our money. They are sinking our economy. This is designed to fail. That's what's so incredible about it. When you see these regions, you're going to see livable communities, livable community partnerships, sustainable communities, one planet communities. These are all part of Agenda 21. It's designed to suck your money. So if you think that I don't care if the United Nations has anything to do with it or not. This is bad enough. It's in my country, and that's all I need to know. But where a lot of this comes from is the UN policy on land ownership, okay? They established that in 1976, okay? They had their UN conference on human habitat. I saw this on a guy's card, on a contractor, right? A building contractor, he had this on his card. constructor of human habitations. I about fell out. I thought, what an idiot. I can't believe I'm reading this. Well, the joke was on me. He was like one of the insider guys. It's nice to know what their jargon is, so when you see it, you know what it is. I'm not saying people are worse than anyone's worse than anybody else. There are people who will do what they need to do for money. This is your opportunity to see what kind of a person you are. So the United Nations, and their meeting, Habitat 1 in 1976, that's when they said that they came up with their policy, their land use policy, right? And they said land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset, controlled by individuals and subject to the pressures and inefficiencies of the market. Oh no, Private land ownership is a principal accumulation and concentration of wealth, and therefore contributes to social injustice. Public control of land use is therefore indispensable. Public control of land use is therefore indispensable because you might accumulate some money. That's right, and it won't be balanced anymore. If you have doubts about communitarian law, you look no further. It is in the United States, the 2005 Kelo decision, right? Remember that? That's when the court said, now that wasn't about the fact that the government could take your land and give it to you because they thought that they could, make more money. That's redevelopment, and that was already a law. That already existed. No, really the big deal was that they redefined public use. Because, under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, you are guaranteed just compensation when the king, that's eminent domain, the right of the king to take your land for a public use. I want to put a road right here. That's a public use. Scenic corridor. I wonder what that has to do. Oh, no, we're not going to use that tool. Okay, but this is what the Supreme Court decision did in 2005. They redefined public use. They said public use is whatever makes more money for your municipality than what's there now. That's a public use. You see? It's for the greater good. It's whatever the government says it is. It's the ends justify the means. So here's the other piece of Agenda 21, and that is the Wildlands. And excuse me, but that's where you live. That's right. That's where we are, the Wildlands. It's a plan to remove humans and human activity from rural and suburban areas. Now, they use extreme population projections to say, hey, we're eating up all the farmland. We're building all over our farmland. We can't let that happen. We're going to have huge influx of population. Now, I checked the New Hampshire population figures. You're going up, what, about 1% a year, something like that? I don't see hordes of New Yorkers flying in here, but I don't know, maybe you do. But Massachusetts, excuse me. Those Boston people, they got no class. All right. Now, the deal is, believe it or not, every single place in the United States, they are predicting their population to explode like crazy. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit past the childbearing years. And we're not all jumping over the fence here. So we're talking about, what does she mean by that? Well, anyway. So we're talking about how many people are really going to be in our country. First of all, if you fly over, you know there's plenty of room. There's land aplenty in this nation. But you're being told that you are using up the natural resources. You're using up nature. It's a catastrophe. And you have to build in the city center. And that's what this does, is this compresses people into the city center by regulating and restricting their usage of what is now called the wildlands, right? Because they need linkages, they need corridors so that Bambi can get together with Bambo. So what's unsustainable? Dams, reservoirs. You might use that water. Erosion control, flood control, brush cutting, forest management. How about those fires? Dust. You know, they're releasing wild carnivores I was just in Florida. I just came from Florida, speaking down there. They're releasing the wild panther. The Florida panther is coming back. Let's go camping. Bears, wolves, coyotes. Aren't they cute when they're little? Where'd my dog go? Yes, this is right. Okay, they're bringing back wild animals into the wild, being released into the wild because, you know, come on, we're being overrun by deer. And you can't shoot them because that's Bambi. But if a wolf gets it, well, that's nature. Okay, so besides that, your corridors, your linkages, which are Yellowstone to Yukon. Have you heard of that? Yellowstone to Yukon. Just think about that. Yellowstone to Yukon? That's kind of a ways, isn't it? We're talking about huge parts of our nation. We're talking about the land that goes between our country and Canada, down the East Coast. Woo! Isn't that where we are? Up the, down there around Texas, up the bottom there, around the West Coast, all the way up to Alaska. Corridors, linkages. Well, obviously these huge nonprofits, they don't have all that much money, do they? They can't just buy that land. They have to restrict you from using it. That's right. View sheds, ridge lines, biotic resources, scenic easements, streamside thresholds. These are regulatory takings. Remember that book I showed you? Growing Smart, legislative guidebook? Right in there, you check out Chapter 8. In fact, a whole portion of that book, lots sprinkled all through that book, it tells your hapless planner how to avoid paying you to take your property rights. How to avoid paying you for taking your property rights. Regulatory takings, non-compensable takings of your property rights. I call them the no-pay APA. You also have misidentification of wetlands. You got wetlands? Well, you're not the only one who's got wetlands, and they may or may not be wetlands because wetlands are being misidentified all across the United States. And you want to fight? Well, you're going to have to get your biologist and your lawyers and hope you got deep pockets because it's going to cost you an awful lot of money to fight. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the Sacketts, right? The Sacketts, that nice couple in Idaho, they bought a little piece of, what did they spend? 23 grand for this little piece of land. How big it could be, I don't know, probably the size of this room. 23 grand they paid for this land, all happy. They're near a lake, they're not on the lake. They get their permits to build. They bring in their bulldozer, they start tearing it up, and they get, or I guess there's nothing to knock on. The EPA guy comes up to the property and goes, you better cease and desist. And they said, what are you talking about? We got our permit. They go, we don't care about your stinking permit. You got to show us your stinking permit. We're giving you a $37,000 fine a day if you don't put your property back the way it was. Really? The way it was before we moved our bulldozer in here? So, you know, most people would freak out and drop out and go away. But these people did not. They went and they got the Pacific Legal Foundation to represent them because I guess they saw that they were going to have a nice little Supreme Court thing there. And they did. If you can believe this, this case went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And if that's not a travesty, I don't know what is. That your federal government appealed that case all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And what did they win? What did the Sacketts win when they finally won that case? They won the right to challenge the EPA. They did not win anything about their wetland, supposed wetland. They won the right to challenge a $37,000 a day fine. That's what we got. That's what we got. That's what we won. All across the United States. I was in Washington State. This man came up to me. He said, Rosa, I lost my property. They said I had a wetland. It was in the stump of a tree that I had cut down. Restriction or denial of use through fee purchase, conservation easement, regulations and restrictions in rural and coastal areas. You're going to have your setbacks, you got your riprap, you got all that stuff. You thought you could use your property? Forget about it. 16% of New Hampshire is owned by the feds, the state, or the local government. That's not enough. They want more.